This is the first video for Word Module 2 in the Shelly Cashman book. The title of this is Creating a Research Paper. We are going to start on the middle of page 2-4. So we need to change some document settings before we start. We also need to, before we can do anything, everything is grayed out here, so I need to have a document. So we're going to do File and a blank document. Now, the first thing the book says is you should change your screen's resolution to 1366 by 768 to match what you're going to see in the book. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep mine on HD, which is 1080. So if I do that, there will be more pixels on the screen, and therefore there may be a little more detail in the ribbons than what you see in the book. But the odds are that you are also working on an HD monitor, not on a monitor whose resolution is 1366 by 768. So number one says start Word and create a blank document in the Word window. We've done that. If the Word window is not maximized, go ahead and maximize it. We've done that. If the print layout button is not selected, click it. Print layout button is down here and it is selected. That is probably going to be the default. If normal is not specified in the styles gallery, so let's go to our styles gallery right here and select normal. So that refers to the text that we'll be typing in. It will be all in what's called the normal style. Display the View tab to display the same width as the document window. Okay, so we want to go to the View tab and set page width, and it looks like that was the default already. Display the Home tab if the Show Hide button is not pushed in, but it is, and I recommend that you always leave that pushed in so you can see all the hidden characters in your document as well as the visible ones. Okay, so now we're ready to go. Let's go to the top of page 2-5. Modify a style. We want to right-click normal in the styles gallery. So let's right-click on that. And we've got a shortcut menu. We want to click modify. And that will bring up another dialog box for us. We want to go to the font arrow and click on the down arrow, and we want Times New Roman. I've got a lot of fonts on my computer, and you probably do too. If you type the letter T, it will get you down to close to Times New Roman, and you can select Times New Roman from that. Font size we want to be 12. So right now it's currently 11, so we'll click on the down arrow, change that to 12. And then ensure that the only in this document option button is selected, and it is. So this will not change our normal style permanently. It will just change it for this particular document. Click on OK, and now we're ready to change the line spacing. That's at the top of page 2-7. So we want to go to the Home tab. And our line spacing button, if you pause the mouse over this for a second, it'll say line and paragraph spacing. We want to change it to 2.0. So we're going to double space our document. And we're going to change the spacing between paragraphs as well. Now we're at the bottom of page 2-7. We're going to remove space after paragraph. So we want to click the line and space button down arrow up here. Let's go to the top of page 2-8. We want to remove space after paragraph, so choose remove space after paragraph. Now let's go to the middle of page 2-8. We want to update a style to match a selection. Right-click normal in the styles gallery. From our menu, choose update normal to match selection. It doesn't look like there's a selection, but the formatting changes that we've made are stored in that paragraph mark, so normal will get updated to reflect all the changes that we've made. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a header, something that will appear at the top of every single page, and you just type it in once and Word will make sure that it appears at the top of every page. So we're going to go to the Insert tab up here, and over here in our header and footer group, we want to choose Header. We get a bunch of choices. We want blank, and this type here is going to come up, and do not ever leave that in your document. Replace it with something, even if all you do is just delete it. Notice that we're now in the header. We're not in the document itself. See our document down here, our paragraph mark is grayed out. So anything we do now up here is going to be in the header. If we're below the dotted line, it's going to be in the actual body of the document. To switch back and forth between here and here, you just have to double click. So if I double click below the dotted line, it disappears and I'm back to editing my document. If I double click above the dotted line, which doesn't show up until you double click up here, if you double click in the header area, then everything you type in will be in the header and it will appear on every single page. Okay, let's delete that. Just when it's selected, hit the delete key. Leave the cursor up here in the header, and now let's go to the top of page 2-10. We want to click the home ribbon, and the home ribbon is right here. Click the Align Right button. So alignment is related to paragraphs, so it's going to be in the paragraph section here. If we click on Align Right, it's going to take whatever we type and it's going to fill in from the right side, backing things up to the left. So let's click on Right Align, and notice you can also do a Control R for that, and everything moves over to the right side. Now we're at the bottom of page 2-10. We're going to enter some text in the header. So part of the MLA style involves putting the last name in the right part of the header. So the last name of this person apparently is Yazzie, so we're going to type that in and then a space. Now at the top of page 2-11, we want to click the header and footer tools design on the ribbon. So we got this up here. This will appear, and if we click on it, it'll show us all of these tools that only apply to things when you're in the header or the footer. If I click outside of the header or footer, or rather double click outside the header or the footer, which I just did, that stuff all goes away. If I want to go back and have that reappear, all I need to do is double click either in the header or the footer. I'm going to double click up here. Let's try it again. And my cursor moves to the front of the Y. I want it at the end of the line. So it's because I'm going to insert some page numbers here. So I just need to click at the end of the line. I could also hit the End key on the keyboard. Now what we want to do is we want to insert a page number. Click on page number over here. We've got some choices here, and just take a quick look at them as you work your way down. We can do numbers at the top of the page, the bottom of the page, margins, which I don't think you'll use very often. We can also put it the current position. So we're already where we want the page number to be, so we can just do current position and choose plain number, and it will put a number at the end of the line on my header for me right after the last name. Okay, now let's turn over to page 2-12. We want to close the header. You can either close the header and footer by clicking on this red X up here, or the other way that I showed you a minute ago is you can just go down here and you can double click. So now let's go to page 2-13, and we're going to do a title page. So on the first line, we're going to type in the person's name, which is Nina, and hit enter. It's set to double space, so we'll get a little extra space in there. I'm going to put the instructor's name, and that'll get us a red wavy line, but it's spelled correctly, so we can ignore that. Courses English 101. The date is October 6, 2011. I'm sorry, 2021. Okay, let's flip over to page 2-14, and we want to click and type. You can move the cursor any place you want to and click. If I hit the enter key and move down to a new line, I can go down here and I can just double click someplace. It'll fill in blank lines for me. I was only one line down, so I got one blank line. I can also go down here and double click in near the center of the document, and it will assume that I want stuff to be centered. And I can also go here to the right side of the document and double click, and it'll assume that I want things to be right aligned. I'm going to go back over here to where I started, back to the left edge. So now we're at the bottom of page 2-14, and we want to double click near the center here while we're on this line. So let's go here and let's double click. That looks pretty close to the center. And there we go. Type health concerns of using technology. 2-15 lists a bunch of keyboard shortcuts for formatting text. You can read those on your own, but I recommend that you read them because some of them are pretty useful and you can use them a lot. Now let's go to the bottom of page 2-15. Format text using a keyboard shortcut. So we want to hit the enter key, go down to a new line, and we want to left align the paragraph. There's two ways to do it. We can go up here, we can click on the left align button in the paragraph group on the home tab, or we can use the keyboard shortcut, which if you pause the mouse there for a second, it tells you is Control L for left. That's easy to remember. So I'm going to do it with keyboard, do Control L, and it goes back to the left edge instead of being centered. So whatever I type on this line will now be left aligned. Go to the top of page 2-16. We want to save the research paper on our hard drive. And we're going to call it SCWD2 Technology Health Concerns Paper. So let's go to our Save button up here. Since it hasn't been named yet, we've got to give it a name. And you can choose whatever location you want to here. I'm just going to leave that. And I'm going to type over it. It takes the first line of your document and thinks that's what your title should be. And that's probably not going to be what you want most of the time. So we're going to call this SC underscore WD underscore 2 underscore, and then we start running words together. Technology Health Concerns Paper. The .docx file extension will be put on automatically by Word for you. Make sure you've got the right location so you can find it later, and then go ahead and click on Save. And we've saved our first version of the document. Now let's go to page 216, the section on displaying the rulers. So it says, if necessary, scroll to the top of the document. So let's scroll to the top. Then we're going to go to the View tab up here, and we're going to turn on Ruler. And it will give us both a horizontal ruler up here and a vertical ruler over here on the side. If you take a look at the ruler, you see some special markers on it. This marker over here, we've got like an upside down house, a right side up house, and then like a little basement underneath the right side up house. And that marks the left margin, but it actually marks three things related to the left margin, so we'll come back to that. And over here, this little house marks the right margin. So, and then on the left side, we've got, we don't have any markers here, but it goes from gray to white. And this line right here, where the gray and the white meet, is the top margin. So if I want something right below the top margin, this is where it's going to start. Let's go to the top of page 2-17, and we are going to do a first line indent on our paragraph. So on this bottom line of our document right now, with the insertion point there, point to the first line indent marker on the ruler. Well, so the first line indent marker is this little upside down house here. And you got to be careful here because we've actually got three different ways to select what we're going to move here. If I click on the upside down house, I can move it to the right, and this will control the first line indent. Okay, so I want to have a 1/2 inch first line indent, so I bring it out. Here's the 1 inch mark, here's the 1/2 inch mark. This other, the right side up house over here, that marks the left margin, what every line other than the first one will be indented at. And the little basement under here, so I can move that independently as well, but I want to leave it here. And the little basement underneath, if I click on that little rectangle and drag it, it maintains the separation between the first line indent and the indentation for all of the subsequent pages here. So there's three places to click. It's kind of a small target, so you got to be careful. But what we want to do right now is we just want to change the first line indent. So set that on 1/2 inch and you're good to go. Now we're going to do some typing here. So we're going to type what it tells us to type at the bottom of page 2-17. So when you type that in, it should look like this when you get done. And now we're going to go to the top of page 2-18, but this is probably a good place to stop this video. So we will continue with video number 2 at the top of page 2-18.